Welcome back. Unfortunately, I don't have all the parts necessary to continue work on the Philco Safari chassis for now, which is, I regret to say, highly annoying, but it is what it is. So, I decided that I'm up for a new project which I will take in between redoing the Philco Safari chassis and other stuff. I've been sidetracked by some work for the last 2 weeks, and well, I decided to reward your patience with a new project. So since I'm missing all the necessary parts to continue work, at least for now, on the Philco Safari, I thought you would enjoy me working on a radio of the brand Orion, and more specifically an Orion of the type R545A. So let me show you a close-up from it. So there you go. As you can see on the dial panel, it's a model R545, but the back of the radio says it's a 545A. Now, I can't tell you right now exactly what the A stands for, but I'm sure I'll find out. Now, as far as I know, the Orion brand might be either a Hungarian brand of radio or perhaps a Czechoslovakian one. Now, as you all know, Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. Nowadays it's either Czechia or Slovakia. But anyway, I can't tell for sure whether this is Czechoslovakian or Hungarian, but I do know it's an East European brand. Now, the radio is rather simple in build-up. It has 4 tubes, which, technically speaking, should make it a little bit less hard for me to repair. Also, as far as I understand, it receives 3 bands, broadcast AM and then 2 shortwave bands. Now, obviously I'm not going to connect the radio up to the AC, not before I have taken a good look at the chassis and studied the chassis a little bit better to see what could be wrong with it. The radio is reasonably complete, although it misses an AC cord, which is regrettable, and it also has a break in the bezel, that forms the front of the radio. As you can see here, there's a clean break here. So maybe I can repair it so that it isn't that visible anymore. So yeah, that will take a little bit of well, handiness to repair. Also, I don't know quite yet if I can at all release this panel from the wooden cabinet. I don't know if it's plastic, this part, or Bakelite, but if it were Bakelite, then, or ivory colored Bakelite that is, then maybe this part is salvageable, because Bakelite is a bit more resilient than plastic. Well, like I said, it's my first project that involves restoring a radio with a wooden cabinet. Now, to be honest, I have never restored a radio, at least not to such a degree that I would need to repaint it and redo the cabinet. I mean, I have never done a wooden cased radio before. So yeah, well, that will ask a bit of readjustment from me, but it might be interesting to do so. Also, well, as you can see, the surface is well, it looks bad, but aside from looking bad, it's not too bad actually. It's simply the top layer, the lacquer, that has let go from the wood. But aside from that, and perhaps a few nicks and dents here, the cabinet looks in reasonably good shape. It doesn't look broken, so that should make my life a little bit easier. Okay, so now for the back. I haven't opened this radio yet, so I thought you would enjoy doing it together with me. So, okay, so this is the back of the radio, and as you can see in the middle right corner of the back of the radio here, you can see it's a type 545A. Now, don't be misled by the TIP in front of the number. It's simply the Hungarian word for type, okay? So it's written tip, and it's probably pronounced tip. But this is not part of the serial or the type number, okay? So, okay, it's a 545A, and it has an interesting feature at the bottom. Let me see if I can switch on the light. I think you can see it. Okay, so down here you can see a small switch, and on the one hand is written radio in Hungarian, you know, and then GR, which I suppose comes from the word gramophone. So in fact, you could connect up an old mono electric record player to this radio and use it as an amplifier. Unfortunately, I don't have a mono gramophone, an old style gramophone, so we'll have to forgo that for now. You can also see that the cord has been, well, I think it has been cut off. Yeah, I think somebody just cut off the AC cord, which is a bit regrettable, but okay, that's not radio problem. Also, as you can see here, it's a radio built to work on a lot of different voltages. So 110, 125, 150, 220, 240. Nowadays, where I live, the AC voltage is somewhere in between those two voltages. So somewhere between 220 and 240. So I guess I will run the radio either on 220 or 240, depending on how sensitive it is to the AC voltage. Also, the radio has, as you can see here, a input for an antenna, and as you can see, the lower part is for ground and the higher part is for the antenna. But they seem to suggest either a cable type of antenna by this symbol or a normal rod antenna like this. And then to finish off the back, talking about the back of the radio, you can see here a small paper stamp and with something written on it. It's in Hungarian, so if I say it, if I read it out loud like it is written, it says a hátlap levétele előtt a hálózati, and there's a word I can't read, ki kell hozni a something, másként a készülék életveszélyes. Okay. I think I know what it reads. It says that before removal of the back cover, so this, the radio should be disconnected from the AC plug, because if not, the apparatus or the appliance would be life-threatening. And then it says, and then it says in slightly smaller letters, this appliance should be protected from moisture. So we'll do all that. Okay, I'm not a qualified person, but I guess I'm not, although I'm electing to be a qualified person. So let's open the back and have a look. It's disconnected from the AC anyway. So here we go. Okay. I hope you can see the whole thing sharply. Okay, I unscrewed the two upper screws. The two lower screws are missing. And there you go. This is the inside of the radio. Okay, so the back of the radio is clean. Well, I mean, it's free of any break or anything like that, so that is salvageable for sure. Okay, here we go. Well, as far as I can tell, let's have a look, a closer look. Okay, well, what can we see? At the back we see the speaker and a connection strip with a lot of wires and at least 2 power resistors and I think what is a capacitor. And then I see a transformer. So I think this radio is a transformer radio, a transformer powered radio, which means that the chassis is probably not a hot chassis. Probably not, but let's not take any risks for now. Okay, so what else can we see? We can see the radio has 4 tubes in it. Namely a tube here, one here and here, and another one here. Okay, and then it has 2 IF cans and an electrolytic can to which a ferrite rod is attached. Now, unfortunately, because the rod is attached to the can, I can't say for sure whether this is only one electrolytic capacitor or 2. So we'll have to wait until I disconnect the ferrite antenna, which I'll have to do anyway if I want to replace the capacitor. Also, you can see this little switch here, this cute little switch, which at least mechanically seems to work, and which allows to switch between radio or gramophone amplification. That's a nice little touch. I haven't seen this on old radios yet. Okay, so I can't see the chassis, the lower part of the chassis yet. I do see in the back, aha, there's another tube over there. So this has 5 tubes instead of 4. I wonder if I misread the... I must have misread the schematic, or maybe I... maybe I downloaded the wrong schematic. That certainly needs to be checked. Now, inside the radio, I can see this part, which is a variable capacitor of some sort. But this doesn't look original to me. It could be, but I'm not sure if this is original or not. Also, I see a small electrolytic down there, and I don't know yet if that is an original, although it does look original. Okay, what else do we see? We see a small transformer up there, and I don't know yet if that is simply a choke or truly a transformer. Maybe a transformer for, I don't know, maybe for a transformer for the light bulb that illuminates the dial. Could be, or it could be a choke of some sort. Okay, well, what I'll do next is I'll unmount the chassis by loosening up this screw, and so this screw and that screw over there. Okay, yeah, I misread the schematic. So in fact the radio has 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 tubes. So if we take a closer look to the schematic, let's see. Well, I'm looking for a type number. Okay, there it says it's an R545, but no A next to the type number. So, well, like I said before, I don't know what the A stands for, but I'll find out, I'm sure. Anyway, okay, so since this has 5 tubes, it is a European variation on what some people call the American 5 setup. So 5-tube radios are often reasonably simple in setup, so I think this radio will not be too difficult to repair. So let's have a look. Well, okay, I undid the 2 screws which releases the chassis from the cabinet, and so okay, this little plaque here, let's see if you can see it. Yeah, so this little plaque here. Okay, so I unscrewed the 2 screws which hold the chassis to the cabinet on both sides, so up here and up here, and I'm ready to pull out the chassis. But there's one more little detail I want to show you at the back, which is this little plaque here, which I think is the serial number of the radio. Now, before I can pull out the chassis from the cabinet, I think I should release the buttons from the front. So, I think you can see it. So, okay, so I must undo this button here, and I think it can be pulled off if I release a little screw inside of it. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, it might be a little screw, but I need more light. Oh, I can't say for sure. Let's see. I need to blow out the hole, since I don't have compressed air, but I do have this, which is cooling fluid. Works just as well. Yes, it's a screw. Okay, so here we go. Yep, here we go. So this button is released. There's a small spring here. I don't know why. So let's release that too. Now let's see. Okay, this one is also held in with a screw. Yep. So let's see. So I undid this button, and I undid the other button, which are all stored in a tiny plastic bag for safety. And each of the 4 pieces, well, the lower and the upper button, were attached with a tiny screw, a tightening screw, as you can see through the plastic bag over there. Now, there was a small spring on this shaft, and I have, at least right now, no clue what the spring is supposed to do. So I hope to discover inside what the purpose of the little spring was. So as you can see, the chassis is pretty loose inside, so you see it move. So let's turn around the radio and try to unmount the chassis, shall we? So here we go. Okie dokie. I think you have a reasonably good view on the radio. So here we go. Let's pull it out. And at least let's try to pull it out. There's no guarantee I can, but okay, this is not easy. Okay, hang on. There's something holding me back. Oh dear. Okay. Okay, there's something else we need to take care of, I think. Which is, I need to undo the bottom part of the radio first, I think. So let's just do that, shall we? So one screw here. I don't know if you can see it. So this is the lower part of the radio, but for one reason or another, it seems pretty messed up. So my guess is somebody tried to repair it in a very crude manner, and yeah, somebody tried to repair it, and I think maybe this is not the original part, the original cover, but I could be wrong, of course. Here we go. Okay, so let's just continue from the top. First, okay, let's continue from the top, shall we? Much safer. Okie dokie, here we go. Okay, that's a bit easier. Okay, hang on, it's snagged up somewhere. I need to find out what is the problem. Okay, you just need to lift it over the edge. And then, come on, pull it out, but it's snagged up somewhere. Damn, I'm hurting myself a bit here. Aha! Okay. Okie dokie. The dial panel is plastic, I think, and not glass. Although I could be wrong, it could be glass, thin glass. Okay, so let's see now. I need to undo the speaker too, I'm afraid. So yeah, so I might have to undo the speaker first before I can release the radio. So the speaker up there, as you can see, let me give you a little bit more light. You see it here. So the speaker is what is holding the chassis inside right now. So what I need to do is I need to undo 4 bolts, as you can see down there. So I need to undo 4 bolts of that type, to release the speaker. I also need to release that little transformer up there, I think. But I'll start with the speaker assembly. So give me a moment. So I undid the chassis, and it's stinking dirty, as can be expected. I also released the speaker from the cabinet, and in fact it can be released from the cabinet front by releasing 3 tabs you see over there. So you see one tab up here, then there's one here, and then there's one over there. So you release the speaker by releasing those 3 tabs, which I did. Also, releasing this little transformer up there is not as easy as it looks. In fact, it's attached to a front panel. Well, in fact, it's the panel that keeps the bezel, the front bezel, in place, I think. So what I need to do to unmount the little transformer up there is to undo this front panel, and I think I can do it by unscrewing this screw, that one over there in the corner, and then another one over there. So give me a moment. Well, I unmounted the whole thing, and well, here we are. This front dial panel you see here is actually glass. I'm astonished. I mean, it's really thin glass, and the fact that it survived all these years, except for a few tiny chips around the base of the knobs, is a miracle. You could say it's a miracle that it survived all these years intact, which is great. So yeah, so that's one thing. So then we have the chassis itself. Now I undid the speaker from the front, you can see over there, by releasing these 3 little tabs. Yeah, and the speaker itself looks okay. So as you can see, the cone is completely undamaged, not a blemish. So I think the cone at least is good. Whether the speaker itself is good, well, that we'll have to see later on. There's a speaker transformer attached to it, as you can see, with at least 1 or 2 capacitors, well, 2 I think, and 2 dog bone power resistors. So yeah, or there's even a small capacitor attached to it down there, dog bone capacitor. So yeah, we'll have to find out whether it's still good or not, but I'm sure I can do that. That's not a real big problem. Excuse me. Okay, so now the front of the chassis. Interestingly enough, the back plate or the back light for the dial panel is a piece of paper, and it's paper stretched on 2 pins that glide over rails. So you see these 2 rails here. Let me take a pointer. That will make things a bit easier. So you see this rail here and this rail there. So this paper is the backlight for the dial plate over here. And this paper is stretched on 2 pieces of metal, so one here and one there, and is stretched along the rails by this spring construction here. And this is pretty interesting. I never saw this before. Why they chose to do it that way? Well, honestly, I don't know. There must have been a reason, I suppose, but well, I guess maybe this was cheaper to do, possibly. Okay, so now the pointer is broken off. As you can see here, this is the original pointer pin, and it moves. So this pin here is all what's left of the original pointer. So we'll have to repair that somehow. And the mechanism still works though, so that in itself is great. But I can see from here that the tuning capacitor doesn't move along with the mechanism, so there's probably a problem there. So that will need fixing. Okay, so on top you can see these capacitors, and I think they might be original. I'm not sure, but they might be. So yeah, and this variable capacitor, well, I don't know. It might be original, maybe not. I have to take a look on the schematic. Okay, so now to end it all, let's have a look at the bottom of the chassis. So 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Okay, now hang on. I don't want to damage anything. Okay. Ooh, this is really compact. And that promises to be moderately annoying to repair. I mean, look at it. It's really packed. All the parts are so close together. It's going to be a real pain to repair it. Okay, well, if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes. This doesn't look original though. I mean, you can see here, this part over here looks like something they wanted to repair something, and oh dear, now I see another problem, which is this coil here. This coil broke loose of its base, so that will have to be repaired. Oh dear, oh dear. So that's not too good. Okay, so I'll have to repair this, and I'll have to try to repair this coil here, which broke loose of its base. So my very first job will be to stabilize this coil assembly so that it doesn't continue to break off. And then the next thing will be to clean off the whole chassis, and so that we can start work on it, which will prove interesting to do, seeing how compact the chassis is. I mean, this is a nightmare, really. I mean, this is really not going to be simple. But okay, that's what we signed up for, so that's what we'll do. Okay, so one last detail I want to show you is the front bezel. So, that panel over there, the speaker panel, was attached to the inside of the cabinet, which is over there, by these little 4 screws. Yeah, so the panel over there, back there, was attached to the inside of the cabinet. So now these little screws, this is a small tip I have for you. So just take a piece of masking tape and prick the screws with their designated washers through it, and then you can simply fold over the tape like this, and that way you'll never lose anything. See? So that's a little trick I learned. Okay, so now for the front bezel. Well, as you can see, the front bezel was attached to the bottom of the cabinet by these 2 tabs over here. In fact, I didn't have to screw loose these because the bezel just fell out of the front of the radio. And as you can see, the speaker cloth is built on a tiny little wooden frame, which itself is, I think, wedged in to the front bezel. So maybe if I'm lucky, I can release this just by some simple pressure. But I'm not going to do it right now, but I think that's what it is. Now, it will make my life a little bit easier when I want to repair the front bezel, because as you can see here, there's this nasty crack. But the crack is a clean crack, so I think it can be repaired. After, of course, I cleaned the front bezel. Okay, so that's it for now. I'll be back with other updates later, so stay tuned for the restoration of a Orion 545A radio. Bye bye.